What the Tech is brought to you by Rocket Loans, part of the Quicken Loans family of companies. Offers personal loans from $2,000 to $35,000 by visiting rocketloans.com/whatthetech. That's rocketloans.com/whatthetech. ButcherBox. For 2 free filet mignons, free bacon, and $20 off your order, go to butcherbox.com/Andrew and enter Andrew at checkout. Go now. This is over a $50 value and available for a limited time only. Hey everybody, welcome to What the Tech. I'm Andrew Zarin. Of course, I'm joined by my best friend in life, Paul Thurrott. How you doing, Paul?
Pretty good. How are you?
So last week we did not do a show. So this week we are doing a funky setup to get you guys the video. I guess I could explain it because people really like the technical aspect of this and how we've kind of rigged the setup. So we have a very sophisticated audio system here at the studio. It's all IP based. It's all mix minus and it's all. I mean, it's very overly complicated. If you're not an audio guy, you're not going to really care about it. But if you are, I could go into detail another time. But so we use IP audio nodes. So essentially, it's a router, right? A node for our audio for our mix minus. This thing has been overheating for about 3 years, and finally, it decided that it was no longer going to work. And the whole thing died. So I had to get it repaired. Obviously, it's not an easy repair to make because you got to find some guy that knows how to work on this thing. Luckily, it's a power supply. It's only costing me $1,000, Paul, to fix. It's only $1,000 to fix, you know,
Sure.
Nothing crazy. So right now they ordered the part and it came in and it was the wrong part. So right now, the way that we're doing this video is nuts. I'm in my studio, but imagine if I wasn't, because I'm doing the show over vMix Call, which is an IP-based WebRTC client. So I'm calling in to the machine here through my laptop, and Paul's calling in into that machine, and then now we've combined our love for each other right here for you. This is how we're doing the show. It's really funky. I have to get used to the timing because Paul and me have this weird latency thing going on right now. But
yep. We're never in sync, Andrew. I feel like we're just never on the same page anymore.
We're never on the same page anymore. But we do have a lot to talk about. So I do want to, you know, do a show and get it out there. But I guess on the post show, I could kind of go into detail about how I'm doing this. It is really wacky and amazing how technology has simplified things to the point that I don't even need to use all this stuff. You know what I mean? I don't even have to use any of this. I'm just calling in through my laptop, and it's not as good, but it's good enough, right?
You've been made redundant.
Yeah, but do you think it's good enough, right? My video?
I can't tell any difference. It seems normal to me.
Good. If Paul can't tell the difference, most people can't either, because Paul is a very judgy man, and he sees everything. I'll get a pimple, he'll tell me I look terrible.
You do have kind of a helmet hair thing going on today, but
I do.
I don't. No, I mean,
Thanks,
it's not clear to me that I see the same thing that people watching see, but it seems normal to me.
Yeah. So we do have a lot to talk about, obviously. I did notes, Paul. I don't know if you saw this, but I did notes for the first time in a while.
I did see that you did notes. I have not looked at the notes, but let me look at the notes.
Yeah, I do want to talk about my experience with installing Windows for the first time in a while. And I kind of want to go into the PC market and the slowdown in growth, and kind of attribute it to a couple of the things that I'm incorporating here at the studio because, you know, even though we use computers a little bit differently because we're power users like most of our audience, but I use it on a production level, I got used to replacing things every 3 years generally. And now I'm not really doing that as much. And I kind of want to talk about that and see if that slowdown in PC growth really has to do with essentially everybody and everything happening in the PC market, not just power users or the average user. And a whole lot more stuff, obviously, I want to talk about. We do have a ton of stuff to get to because we did not do a show last week. But before we continue, I want to thank our new sponsor, and that's Rocket Loans. Personal loans made simple. Visit rocketloans.com/whatthetech. So imagine this, right? The holidays are past. You got credit card bills. You're purchasing new furniture for your new house, or you're making updates to your existing home like I just did. I remodeled my entire kitchen. Part of the Quicken Loans family of companies, Rocket Loans offers you personal loans from $2,000 to $35,000. So regardless if it's one piece of furniture or you're doing a whole remodel, they offer the loan. By visiting rocketloans.com/whatthetech, you could check out the offers at any time without harming your credit score, which is a huge plus. You don't want to sign up for a service that does the whole credit check and then there's a ding on your credit. With Rocket Loans, it's simple, it's rocket fast, and online process. You could combine your credit card bills in one monthly fixed rate. It's very easy, very seamless. Also, I'm a big fan of their service, and anything that makes this kind of stuff easy is okay in my book, obviously. Rocketloans.com/whatthetech. All loans are made by Cross River Bank, member FDIC. Paul.
Yes, sir.
Let's begin with. I want to talk about Xbox Live. Because you had an article on Thurrott.com, and I also saw a lot of people posting this, and you and Brad obviously went into detail about Xbox Live Everywhere and the future of Xbox Live as a service. We're not tied to hardware anymore as much as we used to be even 2-3 years ago. Things are changing. Microsoft's initiative as a whole is content software on every platform. It doesn't matter if it's Mac or PC. And this logic is potentially spreading over to the Xbox side, where you could potentially have Xbox Live on your iPad, theoretically. So go into detail. I'm curious about this.
You will. I mean, you definitely will. So Xbox Live has always had little tendrils out past the Xbox. There was they've called it different things. Now it's just Xbox Live, but we've had it on Windows since, I don't know, right before Windows Vista shipped, probably something like that. Remember Halo 2 came out on Windows Vista at the time, and it was I think they called it Games for Windows or something, but it was the Xbox Live thing. You get achievements and all that stuff. I believe even today there are a handful of games that are Xbox Live powered on the iPhone. I could be wrong about that, but I think there are, like little Microsoft games. And so the question here is not whether Xbox Live is coming to other platforms, other screens, I guess we'll call it, but what form it will take, right? So we know that Microsoft has something called xCloud. It's going to be in public testing sometime this year. It's a cloud delivery system for a gaming service that it will be heterogeneous in nature, meaning you can use it on a PC, an iPad, an iPhone, an Android phone. My iPhone thinks I'm talking to it. Whatever, right? Probably other things. Over time, I could imagine it would come to Roku and smart TVs and whatever. So we know this is happening. And there is no doubt that part of this expansion of Xbox Live to other screens is part of that initiative. But the broader question is whether they intend to expand Xbox Live beyond that, right? To actual native games on iOS or Android or wherever else beyond the Kindle. I'm sorry, not the Kindle. Not the Kindle. Sorry.
You know what, Paul? I would pay money to get Xbox Live on my Kindle.
Just wait for it to render on that terrible grayscale screen. The Switch, I meant. Sorry. So we'll see. I don't expect to see too much there. We don't actually know if that's going to be part of it. I believe it's mostly or all about this future service, and that's why you need that there.
Okay, so let's theoretically say Xbox Live on the Switch, right? The Switch can handle games essentially. You could use it to some extent, but as far as when we're talking about a Roku, or an Apple TV, a lot of the problems that you may encounter will not be on the Microsoft side, but there'll be hardware-based limitations on Roku's side. How will that impact business for them? Because they can't guarantee that you're going to have a great experience or a consistent experience.
Well, actually, one thing they could do is work on a rev of the Xbox controller that does work on all those platforms, right? So we know that, I don't remember when it happened exactly, but the Xbox One controller today supports Bluetooth, right? Not just Microsoft's proprietary Xbox streaming technology for game controllers. That enables it to work seamlessly with computers. It could absolutely make it work seamlessly with mobile devices, with Roku, with whatever, right? Maybe you'll need a wire. A lot of those devices have a USB port. And I know the Roku does, and I'm not sure about I wouldn't be surprised if I bet the Apple TV does too. But
Fire TV also has a USB.
Yeah. So, these platforms all support some form of controller, right? You can use a Roku remote where you turn it sideways. I think third parties make actual game controllers for the Apple TV. Amazon did, or and probably still does, sell an Xbox-like controller for the Fire TV hardware. This stuff is out there. I mean, ideally, what you have is the Xbox controller, and ideally, what you would be able to do is start a game on your big screen with your Xbox One or whatever you might have, and then it's time to go to work, and maybe you're going to be in the um, on a bus or a train or something, and you get your phone and you can keep using that same controller, but now you're on the tiny screen
Yeah.
and you continue playing the same game. I mean, that's the theory, right?
So I mean,
Or
or if I have a Roku upstairs and I want to go upstairs and I just leave the Xbox on, I could,
yeah, it's also, I should say, it's not always about portability either. It's not. Although I think it will definitely be part of it, right? So the scenario I just sort of walked through is one way, but honestly, for a lot of people, it's always been kind of goofy. Like you spend $250 to $500 on an Xbox, and you put it in your living room, and it's like it's this big giant computer powerful device with fans and high end hardware, and the thing's humming away under there, and you're using it to watch like Netflix, right? That doesn't make sense. It's like it's a really inefficient way to do that. Some people are just going to want to use what they have. And so the idea is, I actually do want to take advantage of those games. I don't want to stick an Xbox in there. I don't have the room, or I don't have the money, or whatever it is. But I do have a smart TV or a Roku or a Apple TV, a Fire TV, whatever it might be, or an iPad. And what I want is an Xbox controller, and I want it to go to that screen. And that's what this is all about. And I think that's what Xbox Live being on those platforms is all about as well.
I think it's a great idea. How realistic, or actually, I know it's going to happen, but to what
Yeah.
extent do you think it'll happen? Are we gonna get it on Nintendo Switch? Are we gonna see it on a PlayStation?
Well, you're probably not going to see it on the PlayStation. So, but you'll probably see it just about everywhere else. Remember, at CES this past month, Apple announced deals with a bunch of smart TV makers to bring I'm sorry, not Apple TV, iTunes and AirPlay to those devices, right? I predicted at the time that they would go to Roku and other set-top boxes. Where actually, just today, some Apple site published there's a rumor that that's exactly what's going to happen, and you could kind of see Microsoft approaching gaming from the same perspective. Get it out to as many screens as possible, whatever by whatever means necessary. I think in the beginning, like this year, next year, whatever, without knowing the complete form that it's going to take. Will it be 100% streaming? Will there be some combination of streaming and caching? Will you be able to download content to the device to make it work better? We don't know 100%, but you're going to want to have a pretty good internet connection, right? Obviously, it's not going to be a solution for everyone on day one, obviously, but I think that evolves over time. And so, they're going down this path. There are
Yeah.
services that have done this, like OnLive, for example, and it works. I'm not
Did you
saying it's
use the
perfect.
OnLive service?
Yeah, very briefly, I did.
See, it worked for me because I had really good at the time. I mean, I still have great internet, but I had FiOS at
Yeah,
the time, so my experience was really good. While
yeah,
most people that had 5 megabit upload or whatever 3 megabit upload at the time,
yeah,
10
yeah, yeah.
years ago, it was absolutely terrible. So I know that it relied big
Remember,
on that, but
yeah. So OnLive evolved over time. If I remember it correctly, they had their own dedicated hardware at first, and I think that's what I had. And then I think over time, you could do it on different devices, which probably made more sense, whatever. But um, unlike OnLive, this is not an all or one thing, right? Microsoft's deal is always going to be, look, if you want the very best experience, depending on what your definition of that is, you want to get an Xbox console or a Windows 10 PC, right? Windows 10 PCs can scale depending on the hardware to have better graphics than is even possible on a console and be more powerful, etc. Xbox consoles are really easy to set up and they just kind of work. And so that, a computer could cost 1,000, 3,000. It could cost a lot. An Xbox is going to cost $250 to $500, depending on which one you get. And those are always available. And if you can download the games, play offline, you have different capabilities. But if you can stream, right, you'll have this other new option. It will be some kind of a subscription service. It will be monthly or yearly charge. And I think the experience is going to differ a little bit depending on the device. You'll probably have
big time.
better experience on an iPad than you would on a Roku or something. And I don't even know if Roku is part of the equation. Let's just assume it will be at some point. Obviously, the lower end hardware is not going to work as well. But then again, a lot of this is happening up in the cloud anyway. So the client hardware doesn't matter as much.
Yeah, I'm curious to see this because this is something that we've discussed across the board. And listen, and we're on the Xbox conversation obviously now because it's a big story. But I've always said that Nintendo would be a huge benefactor by allowing their, I guess, virtual console, whatever they call it now, right? The Switch Store, whatever the name for the week is, allowing that platform to be on other services. Obviously, the Nintendo Switch has been a very successful seller for them. It's unpredictably, right? Because leading up to the Switch's release, almost everybody was saying that this may be Nintendo's last console, and this is it for them after the terrible sales of the Wii U. And we've seen them, time and time again recover from this kind of thing. But something that is selling Nintendo, something that's not the selling point for the Switch, is nostalgia games, which a lot of people thought that's the big seller for Nintendo. I think they would benefit greatly by allowing their content on other platforms. Microsoft too. Listen, they have a tremendous library, and allowing somebody to use another device to access that or access their at-home console would be tremendous for them. We're seeing the shift of ecosystems within other ecosystems.
Yeah, I mean, there's two sides to this. There's a lot of companies are working on the services. Apple's rumored to be working on a game service. Google is working on a game service. Amazon's rumored to be working on a service. I mean, any company that makes a platform, they're going to kind of look at it. And then, sorry, I have like a weird cat hair that refuses to get off of my eye.
It's okay. You want me to hold it and blow it? And make a wish.
So it keeps like flipping back into my eyesight or whatever. So on the flip side, of course, you have the companies that actually make game consoles, right? Or have gaming platforms of their own. Sony is a big one, of course, Nintendo, Microsoft, and then kind of to a lesser degree, I would say Apple, has, because of their developer base and the install base of their hardware, that there's probably a big game developer story there as well. Of course there is. I mean,
on the Apple side.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's so by the way, the Apple side is fascinating, right? Because you have a platform. I mean, the iOS and the App Store, they could potentially, arguably, be the #1 game ecosystem out there. They're the biggest, game ecosystem technically because everybody's using their phones and they have access to these games. But they have done such a poor job at executing it on the television. That was the hope with the new Apple TV.
That's right. That's right. There was a scary moment when they announced that where I thought, man, they could steal this away from Microsoft and Sony and Nintendo, I guess. There's always the chance for partnerships, but these companies would be less likely to partner with anyone they see as a rival in that space, right? So even though Microsoft has a great infrastructure that I think would benefit any game company or game maker, and we will probably see some deal, some EA, some Activision, somebody, some group of somebody's do deals with Microsoft, right? To get their games delivered through Azure or whatever. The Sony, Microsoft, Apple, Nintendo link-ups, those are a little less certain. And it would almost, I think, just from the Microsoft perspective, I couldn't imagine, no matter how good Azure is, that like Sony bases some future streaming service on Azure. Like they're going to go with Amazon, or they're going to go with their own, build their own thing out, whatever it is. So we'll see. There's a lot of players that are very interested in this, and for good reason. Gaming is big business. It's much bigger than Hollywood movies, for example. And I think we all probably agree it's not there yet, technology wise, for a lot of people, for most people, but it's definitely going in this direction, right? It's
leaps and bounds. Yeah, it's leaps and bounds ahead. I'm curious to see how this plays out because when you open up the relationship between companies like a Google and a Microsoft and an Apple, it leads to other things. It's not just on this side. Opening up Xbox Live access on an Apple TV or iOS may seem minuscule for people that really don't game, but it's the relationship building that's happening. and that's how you eventually get messages, the iMessage app on Apple on a Windows-based platform. And then I could be very happy and never use my Mac ever again.
I'd love to see that. I see enormous potential for meetups, matchups between Microsoft and Google, Microsoft and Apple as well. And unfortunately, you know, when you look at these companies a little deeper, as much as I'd love to think that this stuff could happen, and I really do, I would love to see this stuff happen. It just seems less likely. You know, for Apple, for example, is the biggest electronics company on earth by far. They have so much money. You know, they're building out incredible infrastructure in the form of data centers all over the world just to support their own platform. You know, when Microsoft builds out infrastructure for Azure, it's to support like all these partners and companies, you know, or customers they have. Apple's infrastructure is just for Apple. That's it. And it's enormous, you know, and so they may not have the innate capabilities of Microsoft when it comes to this kind of stuff, but they do have the capacity and the money to make it happen. And so they may be less likely to team up with Microsoft. That said, there's a business case to be made. Apple has got a little problem, you know, and that problem takes many forms, but it's Android and Chrome OS and it's this other stuff. And Microsoft's very open to working with both sides of that fence, but they could help Apple out in areas that I think are important. Apple in turn could give Microsoft some stuff that would make the iPhone a better experience for Microsoft-centric users. And you just know they're never going to do it. Like you just know they will never give up that control, no matter how much it might benefit their business otherwise.
Because it takes you out of the ecosystem even slightly. And, you know, that's the threat.
And Apple is also, you know, this is going to seem like it's a little off topic, but it really is just at the heart of what Apple is all about. You know, Apple is the biggest bully in tech in many ways, and Apple is embroiled in a massive set of lawsuits, really, with Qualcomm. Right? Apple is probably 1,000 times bigger than Qualcomm, but Qualcomm has one huge advantage. They make these major mobile OS chipsets, especially for things like modems and communication, that are vastly superior to what Apple can get elsewhere. Apple has a sweetheart deal on Qualcomm's modems where they get them for, I think it's like 1/3 the price that everyone else pays, and yet they demand a lot more support than anyone else gets. And so Qualcomm has never come back and said, look, you need to start paying more. But what they have said is, you know, you can't keep going to our competitors for chipsets if you're going to use this stuff at this price. You know, we want some kind of guarantee that our stuff will be in at least 50% of your devices. And Apple has said no to that, and they're suing each other in court. And what kind of comes out is the stuff that Qualcomm is trying to sell to Apple costs $1.50 per iPhone, in a $1,000 iPhone. It's 0.15% of the cost of the phone, and they're fighting it. They purposely made Qualcomm modems slower, so they worked as slow as the crappy Intel modems they were also using because they like to have multiple sources. But the reason I bring this up is that what they're really trying to do is cut those guys out. So today, Apple is working with Intel to fight Qualcomm. They're doing that while Intel is racing to try to make their modems better. But you know that Apple, being Apple, because they've done this so many times, is also working on its own modem chipsets. And once they're able to make their own, they're going to cut off Intel too.
Yeah, you're gone.
They don't want anyone in the iPhone that's not them. And that's the reason I bring this up, because the end game for Apple is control over everything. And they feel that that's the only way they can be successful and differentiate ultimately, is if everything they do is all Apple as possible. They cut off partners at the knees. They steal ideas from their own customers, in many cases of software that they just outright stole from the Mac community or the iPhone community, put it right into their own products. They will do this to Intel. And that's the problem for the Microsoft link up we were kind of dreaming about. I mean, ultimately, if they ever do put iMessage on Windows or on Android or whatever, they're only doing it because they kind of have to, they're forced to. But the end game there is, we really don't want that there. And they'll take it away, like they took away Safari on, Windows, or, you should never trust that that's always going to, be a thing. They want you to buy their stuff.
Yeah, of course. And it really comes down to how much money they can make by putting their stuff on your platform. When you look at Safari was not making them money on Windows. But
yeah, but
an iMessage on Windows or an iMessage on Android, they could there is a way to monetize that. And I was thinking about this, and I'm almost positive this is what's going to happen. They're going to have it on there, and in order to get certain emojis and certain GIFs and certain whatevers, you're going to have to pay $3.99 for, or $1.99 or 99 cents or 50 cents. They're going to monetize this, and I'm telling you, they're going to make a freaking killing.
Well, I think the way they monetize it is they'll do it if it makes sense to keep the iPhone successful, right? If they had heard from enough people that they were like, look, I really like this notion that you have of handoff or whatever they call that, where you can kind of go back and forth between devices. I can send text messages from a Mac and get them, get the notifications on my iPad. I love that stuff, but I use a PC and I want to do it there. If there was enough complaints, right, about that kind of thing, they would put it there, right? Because it would benefit the iPhone. That's why they put iTunes on Windows, right? Because it would help to sell iPods in the beginning and then iPhones, I don't know. You can never trust that kind of thing. It's not a good partnership. It's just, it's a very one-sided deal. It always will be. They're never going to change.
I got a question for you. Here's a question. Do you think the iPod did more for Mac sales than the iPhone did?
I don't think either one of them did much for Mac sales, to be honest. No, and the reason being that the iPod didn't take off until they put it on Windows, right? They put, well, first it was some kind of music match thing, I think, and then eventually they brought iTunes to Windows. The
reason why I say that
was failed until.
Yeah, but the reason why I say that is that the iPad was the first Apple device that many people that I know had, and then that brought them into.
Do you mean iPad or iPod?
iPod.
Yeah.
I feel like the iPod brought you into the ecosystem a little bit. It brought you in the Apple side, and then the iPad eventually brought you into the Mac side.
I don't know. I mean, I think, the iPod, especially when they made multiple versions, and some of them were very cheap, right, was a way to get, it was like, I can't afford a Lamborghini, but look, they sell a scooter and I can afford the scooter, and it's the quality of the, and it was kind of a way to get a taste of that at a lower price. And the idea there is that they would have switchers as a result. And I'm sure there was some of that for sure. But, I mean, Windows market share / usage share has not changed dramatically over the years. So they really didn't steal away a bunch of customers. I mean, I think we saw whatever that plateau was. Like at one point, Apple, Mac, probably hit somewhere 7-8% use, I don't know if it was market or usage share or whatever. It never really went beyond that. And so I think that was it. I think that what they saw was like they got what they could get, Yeah.
But I see way more and more Macs in the wild than I did, 6, 7,
but you live in New York
City.
Ago.
Maybe that's it. Yeah. Maybe.
No, I mean, you got to be careful with your kind of personal experience. If you go to San Francisco, you would think that Apple controls the entire planet. It is a sea of white earbuds and iPhones and MacBook Airs. And, that's, of course it's like that. And, there are places, I mean, when I travel, I look at what people are using on the plane. I don't know what you could take away from that. People can afford to fly, or either businessmen or, affluent or whatever. Affluent people tend to have Apple products, and business people tend to have ThinkPads, whatever. So you see these devices out in the world. I don't know. You see, I think they're popular in schools for sure. Maybe not as much as they used to be. But the numbers don't lie. I mean, there were only, what are there, 100 million Macs out in the world or something? I mean, there were 1.5 billion PCs.
I mean, obviously it's get you on the iPhone side, and then have the schools have iPhones. Geez, too many names. Have MacBooks and MacBook Airs, and then eventually you become an adult. And then you say, well, look, I want to buy a Mac. And I don't know how well that's turning out. I think what's happening is that these kids are becoming adults and saying, I don't need a computer. Right. I think that's really what
Apple's there for them too, right?
Yeah, you can have your iPad.
They have an iPad Pro now, and just an iPhone. Most people,
Obviously, I want to continue this, but we do need to take a minute and talk about my new favorite sponsor, and that's ButcherBox. This is a great offer they're offering our listeners. If you go to butcherbox.com/Andrew, you get 2 free filet mignons, free bacon, and $20 off your order by going to butcherbox.com/Andrew, and you put in Andrew at the checkout. That's over $50 in value, but for a limited time only. So this is only happening for a short period of time. So this is awesome. So Jess, did you do the primal diet, Paul? Were you doing the primal blueprint diet or no? You were doing like a meat-based diet.
Well, I was doing I guess I would call it a low carb keto diet, which is a lot of fat and protein. Sure.
So Jess is doing the primal blueprint diet, and she's down about, I want to say 11, 12 pounds since starting it. And it's all meat-based, very little carbs, almost no carbs, no sugar. And ButcherBox has been a humongous part of this because all I'm doing is cooking meat. So the way that it works, you could either curate your own box or you could let them do it. A mixed box would be high quality beef, chicken, pork, or you could customize it if you just want beef or you just want chicken. It depends on how you want it. The meat is frozen at peak freshness in an individually vacuum sealed bag. It's biodegradable. Each box is shipped with careful calculation for the amount of dry ice. So this is really cool. Doesn't matter if you're in Arizona in the middle of the summer or you're in New York in the middle of winter. They know how to pack the dry ice so it stays at peak conditions if it's sitting outside for a little bit. So you don't have to freak out if it shows up, which is absolutely great. The meat is delivered right to your doorstep for free. Each box is delivered. The meat is grass-fed, grass-finished beef, free-range organic chicken, and heritage-bred pork. This is all great stuff. So last night I made filet 2 nights ago, and it was phenomenal. I mean, it was unbelievable. I just defrosted. I thawed out. I followed the instructions on how to do that, and I made it for Jess. Jess goes, "Oh my God, where'd you get this?" And I said, "It was ButcherBox. It's the shipment that we got." So it's absolutely awesome. I love these guys, and you guys should check it out. And also, I want to get Jess to talk about this. Maybe she could tell me a little bit more about what made her go down this diet path, because she's not really a meat eater. She did vegetarian for a couple years, which was crazy. And now that's all she's doing is eating steak and chicken and, just doing a high meat diet. And it's working great for her. Again, the offer is phenomenal. It's 2 free filet mignons, free bacon, and $20 off your order by going to butcherbox.com/Andrew. Explore the site to learn more. They have got great stuff over there, and we're big fans of them. Paul, a box of meat. How could you not like this?
Sure.
I got a couple questions for you, Paul. Any news on the Microsoft webcam project that we broke here on What the Tech?
Nope, I have not heard anything.
The last we heard that the codename was Aruba.
Yeah, there's 2 versions, like the PC version and the version that will be on Surface Hub 2.
Oh, so so what I said was absolutely right, huh? Amazing. I pat myself on the back on this one. Since we were on the topic of, kind of putting your content on other places with the Xbox conversation, I did want to talk about the Super Bowl a little bit. By the way, congratulations, Paul. You guys played an absolutely terrible game, but luckily for the Patriots, they played
hold on a second. So I take great exception to this complaint that I see all over the place that either one of these teams played a terrible game.
It was a defensive game. It was a defensive game.
Well, no, that's okay. Yes, okay, yeah, fair enough. But look, a lot of the Patriot Super Bowl victories have been nail biter, last second victory type things. This was a 10-point differential. I didn't look this up, but this might have been their biggest victory ever in a Super Bowl, like by points. Someone should look that up, but I think it is. Regardless, I just want to say this about the Patriots since you brought it up. I wouldn't have normally said this, but obviously there are all these great sports dynasties, and if you look at the 18 years over which they've been in the Super Bowl 9 times and won 6 of them, you can look at any other city in the country, and there are some that have maybe 4 or 5 championships across different sports. And the Red Sox have won 4 times. The Bruins and the Celtics have both won once. The Patriots have won 6 times. It's not even close. But when you look at like sports, what the Patriots did and are doing is unprecedented, right? There are Celtics teams like the Celtics won the championship, 11 out of 13 years over a span from the 60s and the early 70s. But that team didn't suffer from the same limitations that are available are enforced in the NFL today. The NFL is designed for parity, right? When you win a lot of games, you get a crappy schedule next year and low draft picks. That's how this works. it's designed so that there are no repeat winners, right?
Yeah.
What you should see over 18 years is a bunch of different teams winning the championship, and then like 1 or 3 or 5 where over that span, maybe some of them win twice. That's what you should see. That's statistically how that should work out. That the Patriots were able to rack up the single greatest sports dynasty in history during a time period in which they were pushed on in every way imaginable is what makes what happened this past weekend.
Well, I have to tell you, so I'm a New York Giants fan. It's actually, Dave from Hot Hardware posted, and I saw a lot of people post this, but this is just such a kick in the nuts. A 4-month-old baby in Boston has seen more championships than a 45-year-old Mets, Jets, Knicks fan combined.
Yeah. Oh no, listen, this is dating back years ago. I had said to my son, who grew up, born in 1998, and grew up with the Patriots winning all the time. The Red Sox started winning. Celtics won. The Bruins won. Star Wars movies came back. Indiana Jones came back. I was like, dude, you're living a magical life. This is not. I've been waiting since the 80s for everything that has happened to you. And it has all happened in a span of like 5 to 7 years. This is bullshit, and he just doesn't understand. He's like, this is the way it always is. It's like, no, it isn't.
We're just winners. Yeah, life's about winning. Your team always wins.
It is not what it is. I mean,
I have to tell you. So Brady, and I know we're going to get back on the subject here, and there was a point to this, but Tom Brady has to be the greatest quarterback of all time at this point.
He has to be the greatest sports player of all time.
I don't care what you say. 42 years old. This guy, he was down and out, right? They were saying, is this Belichick's and Brady's last year? And are they going to? The guy did he play the best game he's ever played? Absolutely not.
No, but did you
play
see
better
him
than
throwing the
everybody else?
ball?
Yes.
Did you see him throwing the ball?
The guy is engineered to be the best.
Yeah. There's a great breakdown
say,
they did in the New York Times where they were talking about the 2 most pivotal passes of the game and how they went right or wrong. And one was the Rams threw and got intercepted late in the game, and the ball was just underthrown. It was just badly thrown, period. There's a great diagram of how it kind of went down. And then they've got an even longer pass that Tom Brady threw to Gronkowski that was perfect, and he was covered by 3 different guys. Granted, he's a monster. He's a huge person, but being big in the NFL is not an excuse. Everyone in the NFL is big. That's the difference right there.
Right,
you either throw it perfectly or you don't, and it has to come from the quarterback and his ability to impact that team through a roster that has changed continuously. He's the only guy that's been on every single one of these teams. The only one is astonishing. Kobe Bryant or LeBron James or Larry Bird or I'm trying to think who else is good.
Michael Jordan,
whatever.
Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan.
Well,
Michael Jordan's single-handedly. Well, he's not the exception actually, because he had a core cast of characters. Only did it over a 6-year span, really. And he is, it's not like Jordan was the one. You can't say Jordan was the one guy who was on all those teams. He wasn't. And that's a big difference.
I think it's amazing.
It's fascinating. They're all amazing. Don't get me wrong. Jordan is, my God, of course. But if you have to make a choice, like the single best, I don't think you can make a choice otherwise.
Yeah, I have to tell you, it takes a lot for and people. I think a lot of people realize at this point how great Tom Brady is. But this was my point before we veer off into.
We're a little defensive up here in the Patriots.
I get it. I totally get it. It was interesting to see how the NFL and CBS essentially are giving the show away for free everywhere. Right, everywhere.
Yeah, right. I saw that.
So it didn't. So I was actually doing a little bit of digging on this. No matter what device you were on, so whether it was a Roku, a Apple TV, a Fire TV, there was a banner ad, and an iPhone. There was a banner ad essentially on all those platforms saying how this is how you could watch the Super Bowl for free. You don't have to pay. Just download this app and you watch it for free. I thought that was really interesting. The aggressiveness of giving it away like that was fascinating.
Of course, most of the people they're reaching have a way to watch the Super Bowl, right? They have a TV probably or some TV service, whatever it is. But yeah, it was a good effort. I also, for whatever it's worth, I thought it was kind of fascinating that 2 things kind of tech related about the Super Bowl and the commercials is 80 or 75% of the ads featured robots for some reason, right? It was really weird. Like everyone noticed it who I watched the game with. We were talking like, why are there so many robots? But the other one is that, obviously every year with the Super Bowl, the ads are kind of hit or miss, and usually most of them are pretty terrible. And then there's a handful that kind of do well, or funny or whatever it is. But it seems like most of the better ads were actually kind of tech industry ads, right? Like the Amazon ad with Harrison Ford was hilarious, and that because they played it 18 times. And then the Microsoft ad about the accessibility controller that they have, it was wonderful. It's really nice.
Yeah, I thought those were two of the stronger ones. But it was interesting. This speaks volumes because I think a lot of the giving it away on the app and being so forceful is that they're realizing that the generation that's buying cable and the generation that's putting antennas on the TV, even just, by antennas, I don't mean literally rabbit ears. I mean that little plastic piece that you put up. That is work for people for an entire generation. Having that is work and an effort, but to download an app and not even have it log in and just watch it on any of your devices anywhere.
Right.
Well, this is a key numbers game for obviously the NFL.
But it's about advertising, isn't it? I mean, ultimately what they're doing is saying this is Google's model, The ads are paying the bills. We want to get those ads in front of as many people as possible. That makes them even more valuable to the advertisers.
And next year they go up another 20%.
Yep. Super Bowl advertising is astronomically expensive. I do have to wonder about the NFL though, because there's a great case to be made that this league won't be around in 10 years, that they might reach a point where, because of all these concussions, which are non-solvable, by the way, I don't care what kind of helmet they come up with, your head is rattling around in a cage. You're going to have a concussion. They might actually reach a point where they can't insure the league. Like there will be no company that will insure this. And that might be the end of it. I mean, it's going to turn into flag football or something. They're going to play.
By the way, the ratings, the overnight ratings that came in on Monday, it was the lowest Super Bowl in 10 years, the lowest rated Super Bowl. Now, that's not putting into account the DVR numbers, the P1 DVR numbers, and that's not putting into account all the social media stuff.
I'm not trying to be a dick about this, but let's face it, the Rams, seriously? I mean, if you were to look at the league, I mean, the Patriots are a draw. Whatever you thought of them this season, I don't really care, but they are the Patriots, right? So it's whatever. But, the New Orleans Saints, I think, would have been a big deal if they could have somehow played the Philadelphia Eagles again. That would have been humongous, right? There are certain teams that matchup would have been very exciting. And the LA Rams, no offense to the fans they may have out there or whatever, but seriously.
Well, the article that I read actually was saying, New York Times actually had the story where they were saying that the ratings were low because, the Patriots were America's team for a while, and now the Saints are America's team, and there was a giant rebellion of Saints fans that said, "Screw this, I'm not watching it."
That's not true. There is no one on earth who believes that the Saints are America's team. That's crazy. The New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, the New Orleans Saints. Yeah, it's America's.
They're awesome. I don't mean this as a slag on the team, but that's ludicrous.
Yeah.
They were arguably the best team in the league this year.
So anyway, I want to talk about that model a little bit. The fact that the Super Bowl, the biggest sporting event in America, essentially, right? Not worldwide, because that's obviously the World Cup, and there's plenty of soccer games that do tremendous numbers worldwide. But the fact that they gave it away everywhere, I see this model being something that we see more and more amongst all different types of shows, not just sporting events, but with debut episodes of shows to kind of entice you into for the ad revenue, because a lot of this is that ad revenue is down for TV because people are not watching TV. So what's happening is, if you are a first-run series of, I don't know, whatever, I need a show on regular television.
Sure.
Big Bang Theory, right? Big Bang Theory.
Yeah.
Big Bang Theory. If, let's say, Big Bang Theory is the best show in the world, and it's the biggest ad-driven, which I think it is. I think actually advertising-wise, it's one of the top ones. You need, and the numbers are going down for television.
How many people watch this show? Do you think?
I want to say 10 million.
Yeah. So you know what?
Let me guess. I'm going to look it up.
The top 5 to 10 shows on Netflix and some number of the top shows on Amazon and Hulu all attract anywhere from 2 to 5 times that audience, all of them. And that's all you need to know about what's going on with TV. You know, the TV that people talk about today is not The Big Bang. No one's going to work. Hey, did you see the funny joke on The Big Bang Theory last night?
Okay,
This
so I think it
conversation does
did.
not occur.
I
Well,
think
hold on a
it's doing
second.
like 12 to 14.
All right, still nothing compared to what you see on these services. The big gotta see it TV stuff today is The Handmaid's Tale. It's House of Cards back before Kevin Spacey jumped off a cliff. It's Game of Thrones, which is on HBO, right? This is the stuff that people are getting excited about on TV. Yeah, The Walking Dead had it for a little while. It's kind of dragged on for too much, and everyone's dead now. But it's not those shows. I mean, I'd have to look it up. I don't like most people. I don't watch most of this stuff, but there's no, water cooler discussion about The Big Bang Theory. There just isn't. There's no one. No, we're not. No one is walking around talking catchphrases from these characters, or it's the type of thing like a sheep watches. It's just nothing. It happens and it's over, and you're like, I spent 30 minutes. It's fine.
I also what's happening is that they're realizing, who's the demo that's watching. Like This Is Us, right? This Is Us is a humongous hit on TV. My wife loves that show. All my wife's friends love that show. That show does
Really,
about
The Big
8
Bang
million.
Theory?
No. This Is Us.
Oh, okay.
This is not The Big Bang. No, not The Big Bang Theory, but This Is Us. It's doing about 9 million, 8 to 9 million viewers per week, and that is a major success for cable. What's their Hulu numbers? What's their, when they go into Netflix?
All right.
What's their numbers going to be over there?
I'm going to look this up. So let me see if I can find this, because I don't remember the Marvelous Miss. The name of this thing, Marvelous.
Yeah, it's a good show. Yeah.
There was just a story about this in the New York Times. Over 40 million people watched that. 40.
Yeah, phenomenal.
Well, phenomenal. That's killing the show that you just said was the best show on TV, or the most watched show on TV. I mean,
but you know what? Nobody cares.
That's
you know why?
The problem.
There's no ad revenue. Where's the ad revenue?
Right, but but you're paying for the service, right? It's not. What I'm saying is that model, the TV, the Super Bowl is having to try something different to get the numbers up, right? On TV, it's kind of shifted to these. I don't know what you call this. What do you call these? We used to call them it was like premium TV shows, right? Like if you watched a series on HBO, like back in the day, like Deadwood or Rome, there were only, a handful of them. Now there's you go to Netflix and you don't even know what to watch.
And you know what the ratings were?
For
let's say Sopranos. Let's say Sopranos, right? Huge mega premium
huge.
HBO hit, right? I still watch it in reruns constantly. Their ratings were like 3 million people. 2 million, 4 million
that
people.
Probably drove a lot of, I know, but that was kind of boutique TV back then, right? So HBO, for them, that was probably big business. Today, HBO is a minor player in this stuff. I mean, if it wasn't for Game of Thrones, they wouldn't even be in this discussion, and that's ending. And they're trying to make another one because they see that this is basically it for them. I don't know. There are shows on Netflix that are just, well, we've stopped watching TV. That's just us. I mean, that doesn't mean the whole world has, but I mean, I think the whole world has, when I was a kid, there were 3 channels plus a PBS station and a couple of channels on UHF, local channels. We all watched the same stuff. It didn't kind of matter how good or bad it was. If Friday night we'd watch Dallas or whatever, we watched terrible shows like Happy Days and Laverne and Shirley. Today, those shows, well, actually, there are shows just like that today, so never mind. But they wouldn't be the thing that everyone watched, because now we have 1,100 choices. Like some nights my wife will go out, or should be doing something. I have a couple hours to kill. I'll watch the YouTube, on the TV, which still feels vaguely dirty to me. It's a little weird. Here's a 6-minute video about Van Halen. Now I'm going to watch a documentary about a horror movie. It's like the stupidest collection of stuff, but it's just kind of uniquely YouTube. I don't know.
By the way, let me correct what I said. The rating was a 3 or 4 or 5. The actual viewership for The Soprano was more along the lines of 11 million.
Yeah, which back in that day, what was that, 20 years ago?
20 years, that's tremendous. 20 years ago for premium.
Amazing.
Yeah, for free
Yeah,
premium
and if you
channel.
look at and if you look at HBO and its comparable shows, not that there were any on Cinemax or Stars, whatever the other stations are, that was probably the runaway. That was probably the one that's probably the reason we have what we have today. I assume some people looked at that and they were like, "Look, this thing is like a movie that runs over a season, and there are multiple seasons, and it's amazing. And yeah, it's a little expensive to make because it's a lot of people, a lot of characters, whatever. But my God, this could make big bucks. And now we have Netflix doing this, right?
So
What was
here's
Netflix when it first came out? Wasn't it a place to get B movies and
DVDs.
direct to video movies?
I think the
Basically.
big what was the big so I was reading an article about this, and they
Mhm.
said the one thing that the one I mean there was many, but like the one major thing that really helped Netflix
Mhm.
in its initial pivotal boom was reruns of The Office and reruns of
Yeah.
Arrested Development.
Right.
Those were the
Yeah. Yeah.
two
Yeah.
that really
And they actually picked
drove.
up. They've done at least what 2 seasons now of Arrested
Yeah,
Development, I think.
and I have to tell you, I
I heard that Friends was a big deal for them as well, by the
Friends is a
way.
big deal. Yeah,
And
Friends
Friends is
was.
a very unfunny, terrible show. But,
Don't say that. Don't say that. Don't say that out loud. You'll get beat up. I'm telling
it's
you.
terrible. The
People
Laverne
that
and
love
Shirley of the 1990s. No,
the
look,
Joey
Seinfeld was
Tribbiani crew will come and
intelligent,
find you.
excellent comedy. Friends was, Friends. I mean,
Yeah.
it was Friends.
It's interesting. I do want to before we wrap up and go into our post show, because I'm going to interview you on the bonus show. Guys, if
Okay.
you're watching live, I do this once a year, and I ask Paul about his life and his career. And this is my favorite thing to do once a year is kind of interview Paul, because Paul and I do a show, but he's one of my favorite people to interview, which is strange, considering
It
we're
is
friends. Who interviews their friends? Psychopaths,
Right.
crazy people. That's who does that. So if you're watching this live, stay tuned. You can watch. You can watch it live, absolutely. If you're watching this on demand or on a podcast form, go to patreon.com/whatthetech. You can fund us there as little as $1 per episode. That's $1 per episode. You can go to patreon.com/whatthetech, hit the fund button and fund us there. Also, if you're on YouTube right now watching live, hit the subscribe button, first of all. Second, if you liked what we're doing and you're enjoying the show, there's a little $ next to the chat. You can hit that $ and fund us $1, $2, whatever you want to fund us. You could go ahead and do that, and helps, the show go. And it's, by the way, the repair of that ridiculously expensive node you guys are paying for, which is unbelievable. You guys are the reason why we're going back on the air so fast after a week or so. We're going to go live, and I'm going to talk to Paul about this. Also, Thurrott.com, guys. Go to Thurrott.com. Paul, I want to talk about this. So since we're on the subject of streaming media, and obviously that's how everybody's accessing their content, or most people, it is very important to have really good Wi-Fi in your house. I feel like it sounded like I was going into an ad for a second, but I'm not. I swear to you. And this is still a problem for many people. Is they have a Roku, they have whatever. Like my father, for example, he has a 4K TV, and he has a Roku 4K, and he has terrible Wi-Fi. And I was helping him out. I was like, why does it look so? I'm like, this is not 4K, and I'm looking, it's not enabling 4K because he has crappy Wi-Fi. Sure. And obviously, it took me like 30 minutes. I figured something out, and I got him to have a better connection. But I don't think a lot of people are their connections are good. Like most people that I visit, their routers are hidden away somewhere in a cupboard, covered with stuff, and they have no idea that they're not getting good connection. Like my mother-in-law is one of those people that it's like hidden away in the attic in a wall.
I mean, ideally, if you could put it next to the TV and run a wire,
that'd be the best.
You'd be better off, especially if that TV is centrally located in your house.
So part of what I'm doing, like I started doing like speed tests in all my rooms with all these, smart devices. And I'm realizing that I don't even have great signal going across every room. And so what I've done, I actually, my routers are in this room, right? In the office. And before it was fine. It was good enough. It was reaching everything. And I have a router on the 3rd floor that I use for just in case if something goes bad. I at least have another connection. Since I put these soundproof doors in, because they're insulated, I can't get a signal upstairs anymore. It's blocking it. So I'm in the process of, figuring out how to do Wi-Fi in my house, all across, efficiently. So I've gone down that path this week, and I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to lay it out over the next couple of weeks, and I'm going to talk about how I'm doing this and what devices I'm going with, because I don't want to spend a lot of money. A lot of people suggested the Google Wi-Fi system, but that's not cheap. You're talking like, oh, I guess it is inexpensive, right? 3 of them are like $350. It's not that expensive. So I'm gonna go as cheap and as good as possible. So my goal is to spend less than $50 a router or $50 a router, and have at least 3 of them set up in my house. And I'm going to do a test to see how good this possibly could be.
Right. I mean,
do you think it's possible?
No, but I think I personally think, and because it's what I do, so obviously it's right. No, but you know, I stopped looking because I got something that worked for me. But I think a mesh networking system is great, and the one we have, which is the Google one, works really well. But there are other ways to do it. You know, you can do extenders and so forth. They have power line adapters. You can just plug stuff into a power port, have those stuff all around the house. Those little devices are probably pretty small. But with your doors, you're going to want to do something that gets something outside of the doors, right? And so
I got to get it outside of the door. Yeah.
And it's got to be connected with a wire.
So what I can do,
that thing becomes the basis for Wi-Fi that happens elsewhere.
So what I can do, so my routers are here, right over there. You can see them actually. They're lit. So I could run it. I could run a wire through this wall, and it goes out the room.
Right, and then you mount
and just have it on the wall, and then mount it on the wall. Yeah, just mount it right there.
That's definitely the first step.
Yeah, I think I'm going to do that, and then I'll begin my my experiment here. I was looking at some TP-Link stuff, which I was surprisingly suggested by someone that understands Wi-Fi and networking. And he said, you really should look at these because they're very inexpensive and the hardware is very good in them. They're doing really good hardware. The other problem that I have, Paul.
What is it, though? Is it a mesh network or is it like just little nodes?
It was a mesh network. It was a mesh network.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. The other problem that I have 2 separate internet lines in this house. I have 2 separate Fios lines. And it's no longer necessary to do that, especially for what I'm doing. I have gigabit. You know, I think I'm getting 980 by 1200.
It would make more sense to have a second connection from a different carrier.
The problem is I'm afraid to cancel this line, because if I cancel this second line, I wasn't supposed to get it. Verizon doesn't do 2 lines in one house. Somehow I finagled them to do this. Now I'm paying $80 because I have fear of missing out. And I'm afraid that once I get rid of this, I won't ever be allowed to have another line just in case.
Right. Well, yeah, a just in case line is unusual. But you should, I think you'd be better off. I mean, if one goes down, they're both going to go down. Why not just have a...
No, it doesn't work like that, really, because they hit it on a different, I guess, a different node. It's coming in from this side of the block, and this one's coming in from this side of the block.
I mean, most Fios outages are not something that happens up the street. It's...
Yeah.
I mean, I know.
I mean, I don't know. I'm debating what I'm going to do with this, because 2 lines is unnecessary. So what I've done, and considering streaming has gotten so easy, like right now we just send 1 stream out, and then that does all the distribution for us through Restream. We're not doing like 800 different streams anymore that I need all the bandwidth all the time.
Yeah.
I just need it for an hour or 2 a day, and that's it. So right now, the way that it's set up, all the TVs are connected to one network for streaming, and then my stuff is connected to one. But listen, with a gigabit streaming, it's really not necessary. If you have a good router and it has a good NAT pool and it's not getting flooded and it's able to handle multiple devices.
Fios is a gig over a gig, so that's amazing. My connection here is only 330 down and 220 up. That's enough for this. I mean, it's, I mean, we do 4K over wireless. It's fine. I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. So that's just an experiment that I'm trying, and then we'll continue with that over the next couple of weeks of what I do and how I do it. We'll see what's going on. Also, I want to tell everybody, people are saying like, why don't you just run a wire? I had run a wire, okay? And for whatever reason, and I'm curious if this is a issue amongst a lot of these devices, the chipset for the wired internet is not as good as the wireless. I'm able to get better speeds on wireless than I am with wired. And I've done this experiment. I did this on the Apple TV, and I was shocked to see on the Apple TV, when I wire the connection, I'm getting a lower speed than I am with the wireless.
Well, Yeah, but you know what? It's a more consistent and reliable speed. The problem with wireless is that it goes up and down, and I think there's a lot more latency and packet loss. I mean, I don't know. I always go wired on my devices are right next to the router, so the Apple TV and the Roku both are wired. You know.
Yeah, I gotta take a look and see. Because I don't know. It could be. I mean, listen, I ran these wires a while ago, so something may have happened. You know, a rat might have ate it outside, or a raccoon got into. I don't know. So we'll see what it is. Guys, go to our website gfknetwork.com. Subscribe to the podcast. We're everywhere podcasts are available. If you're watching us live, stay tuned on YouTube. I'm going to talk to Paul. We're going to do our bonus show. If you enjoy the bonus show, go to patreon.com/whatthetech and fund us there. $1. That's all we're asking. Easy breezy. Simple. Also, go to Thurrott.com. Check out Thurrott Premium. Paul has a great article about computers I have known a love story, which I thought this was really nice. I like this article on Thurrott Premium. This was one of my favorite ones of the year so far, actually. You go into your love affair with your Commodore 64. You actually, this is pretty cool. Any pictures? Yeah. I'm assuming these pictures are from the scanning that you did, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, these are great.
In fact, I've been waiting. I've been kind of sitting on this because as I've been scanning, I get more and more of these things. And this morning I was like, I got to put this up. But I know when I put this up, like there'll be more, you know. But yeah, this is what I found so far.
By the way, the second one, the second picture that you have, I believe it's the Commodore 64C.
That's right.
That I had that same exact computer desk that I believe my parents bought. I believe. I'm going to guess. It's a Sullivan.
Probably, yep.
It's a Sullivan computer desk, and my parents bought this from Computer City. I'll never forget that.
Yeah, I was going to guess Sears, but it could be from it. I don't remember exactly.
It could be
I would
Sears
have bought
also.
That
around 1989, 1988, this desk.
Yeah, that picture was probably taken in 1987, but I bought that desk that year because I moved cross country, but I brought the computer. I think in that picture you can see it's an Epix joystick. Epix was like a game making company, and they made a high performance joystick that was really nice. It's red, and then you can't see it in that picture, I don't think, but on the corner piece, because remember there was like a triangular piece that went out to where the printer stand was.
Yeah.
I had an Okamate 20. It's like a thermal printer, so it would actually heat like wax basically to make color. It would kind of print in these. You could see the stripes, you know, from the print head or whatever. I had quite a little setup.
Yeah, this is wild. I think the second one also, I believe that's a Sullivan. The second desk is definitely a Sullivan desk.
I eventually got
for the Apple IIG.
Sweet. Yeah, sure. I mean, I eventually got a really nice desk, set of desks actually, at like kind of it wasn't Denmark, but it was like a Copenhagen imports kind of, you know.
Yeah.
Whatever. IKEA type thing, but not really high quality.
Yeah, this is cool. I enjoyed this article. So guys, if you are a Thurrott Premium member, go check it out because it's actually really nice to go down memory lane and kind of see the things that you personally use. Also, if you're not a Thurrott Premium member, consider joining Thurrott Premium as well. You can follow me on Twitter @AndrewZarin. You can follow Paul @Thurrott, and that's it for this week. We'll see you all later.